Hey, Dan Beagleman here. In this video, I'll teach you how to play the key guitar parts for the song Hocus Pocus, and I'll also show you some interesting ideas for soloing, scales that you can use, and some different rhythmic examples to play some really interesting lines over this tune. Focus was a Dutch prog rock quartet formed in 1969 and had this major hit with the song Hocus Pocus. A few reasons why this song became such an international hit, although being an instrumental tune, was because of its high energy, its interesting yodeling lines, and some stellar guitar work from guitarist Jan Akkerman. Okay, on to Hocus Pocus by Focus. Hocus Pocus is in the key of A minor, and it has four primary sections. Two of the primary sections are guitar rhythmic figures, and then there are two vocal figures, which I'll show you how to play on guitar. The first rhythm figure, which is really the most recognizable, if you will, or the main theme of the tune, it's comprised of an 8-bar cycle. It has 2 bars of like A octaves. It's starting with an open A and a G on 4th string, and then it goes right to the A on the 4th string. So there's your 2 bars there, 1, and then it's followed by a chord cycle: E minor 7, F major 7, C major 7, B flat major 7, and E7 sharp 9. So the first half of that rhythm figure again is. Then it does that A octave thing again. And then this time the chord cycle is a little bit different. E minor 7, F, D, B5, and E. So putting those together you have. And that's your main theme, if you will, an 8-bar cycle that's repeated 2 times. The second guitar rhythm figure is very, very simple. It's just a 4-bar phrase, and it's built on power chords or fifths. It's A5, C5, D5. Then it goes up a 4th, D5, F5, G5, and E7 sharp 9. And then that's followed by a 4-bar drum fill. So again, here's that part. Those are the 2 main guitar rhythm figures, or themes, if you will, on this tune. And then there are these 2 vocal figures, which, again, there are no lyrics on the song, but there is like a yodeling type of a melody. And it's kind of cool, so I'll show you how to play that on guitar. The first one, it's interesting. It's like a descending A minor scale in a lot of ways. It's starting up here. So you're hitting it's like the 5th and the 3rd of the A minor chord, and the phrases, and then it just follows an A minor scale going down until the last 2 bars, which is like a 2-5 turn. So you have. And again. And it does that twice. Interesting, as I said, it's like an A minor descent. Well, it descends like an A minor scale, you know, just. Except here, the last 2 figures is like your turn, like your 2-5 turn, you know, to resolve to the A minor. So, an interesting pattern. And again, it's not played on a guitar, it's the vocalist yodeling. And I'm not going to yodel for you because I can't. If I could, I would. The 4th section of Hocus Pocus also is a vocal line, which I'll show you how to play on guitar, and I'll use power chords also to exemplify. Here's that last vocal line. It's an ascending, a Phrygian mode. An A Phrygian mode is like an A minor scale with a flat second. You can think of it that way. But the notes are A, B flat, C, D, E, F, G, A. And if you throw some power chords to that, kind of makes it interesting. A5, B flat 5, but all with a pedaling and open A string, so you can get that A pedal with that. So A5, B flat 5, C5, D5, E5, F5, G5, A5. And if you pedal like eighth notes with that, it really fills it out nicely. So those are the 4 key parts to the song: 2 guitar rhythmic figures and 2 vocal lines. Now, here are all 4 parts played together. Now, regarding the soloing for Hocus Pocus, there is no signature guitar solo or part of a guitar solo, riff, whatever, that's recognizable. It's a very improvised guitar solo, or the sections are very improvised. It's not like the solo to Stairway to Heaven or Hotel California, let's say, where it's like a recognizable, you can walk down the street and, sing the guitar solo. So the solo being just like an improvised situation, there's a lot of scales that will work well over this musical bed, over the rhythm phrase. A lot of things that you can play with that will work. So here's some scales that you can use for soloing on this tune. Start with your basic minor pentatonic scale. Again, we're in the key of A, so A minor pentatonic scale. Then if you add that passing tone between the 3rd and 4th degree of the pentatonic scale, you have your minor blues scale. Okay, 5-tone scale for minor pentatonic, 6-tone scale for the blues scale. Now you can bring in 3 modes that are minor type modes. You have the Aeolian mode, which is also the natural minor scale. All natural notes in this case, A, B, C, D, E, F, G, A. Then you can use the Dorian mode, which is like a natural minor scale with a raised 6th degree. You can also use the A Phrygian mode, which is like a natural minor scale with a flat 2nd. And all of these scales and patterns I just showed you in the 5th position can also obviously be played in the 17th position, one octave higher, you know. So just something to keep in mind. Also, there are times that you might hear something like this. You know, very, very common pattern in the minor key, where you have, like, you know, fingers 1 and 2 on strings 3, 2, and 1. And here's your root note here. And this is actually part of a melodic minor scale with a passing tone of the sharp 4 flat 5. So you can use all of these scales and modes and just, you know, kind of run rampant all over the rhythm figure here. Right? That's a great bed to just play, to, you know, go crazy and use like all these scales. Also, this, as the last thing that I just showed you, this melodic minor scale with this 1 2 1 2 1 2 thing on these 3 strings. A very, very common thing, used a lot in the, if you're familiar with the Allman Brothers Band, you know, those extended jams, Whipping Post and Elizabeth Reed, Dickie Betts and Duane Allman family, probably more Dickie Betts, used these patterns a lot. Right, you can probably recognize maybe some of those riffs if you're familiar with these songs. So again, you have a minor pentatonic scale, a minor blues scale, 3 modes, and a melodic minor scale. Again, lots of options for soloing on this tune. And you could check out my video series on modes and scales for a deep dive on understanding these modes and scales and how to use them for improvising, composing, and just all sorts of applications. Now, I just showed you some scales and modes that you can use for soloing on this tune. But another thing to consider when you're soloing is phrasing. Phrasing means the rhythmic component, you know, to what you're playing. Notes, of course, you know, you play the scale, so you know, playing the notes that are contained in the scales. But you know, if you just play the scales up and down, you know, they just don't really have much interest sometimes. So you want to think rhythmic phrasing. And a couple of ideas you can use for rhythmic phrasing, soloing on a tune like this, could be like straight eighth note phrases, chromatic phrases. Chromatic meaning sometimes playing up a couple of notes that are just like going, you know, in half steps. Eighth note triplets. So a couple of options, or is just here's a couple of ideas for some lines that will work over a tune like this. Again, this is not the guitar solo on the record, just something I'm going to throw together for you, but to give you a sense of how you can use some of these scales. This one is kind of connected to that melodic minor scale that I showed you earlier. So I'm playing, the song is at a high tempo, 1 2 3 4, 1 2 3 4. So you're playing eighth notes here, 1 and 2 and 3 and 4, and like that. Right? And here's that riff slowly. Here's another pattern for A minor. This is not in one of the scale patterns I showed you, just to give you another idea of using some chromatic lines and things like that. Again, slowly. That's kind of a combination of the minor blues scale and some chromatic stuff in there as well. So those two riffs I just showed you are just eighth note riffs, straight eighth note rhythm patterns. Another type of rhythmic pattern you can use for soloing on a tune like this, and others as well, is an eighth note triplet pattern. Here's an eighth note triplet pattern on an A minor pentatonic scale, first ascending and then descending. And a triplet, eighth note triplet pattern means for each note you're hitting 3 eighth notes in each beat. Da 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 da, you know, 1 2 3 1 2 3 1 2 3 like that. Okay, so A minor pentatonic scale ascending in an eighth note triplet pattern. and descending. And then here's another idea using an eighth note phrase but playing a chromatic type of a line. Chromatic meaning just descending in this case in half steps. So again, for soloing on this tune, being that there isn't a signature guitar solo like a Stairway to Heaven, Hotel California type of solo, it's just a big musical sandbox. So you have all these scales that I just showed you that you can use: the pentatonic, the blues, modes, the melodic minor scale, and just mix them up and have fun playing with them. Keep in mind also, as I mentioned, the rhythmic character as well. You know, it's not just playing the scale notes up and down. You know, mix the scales up, mix the notes up, and also consider the rhythmic component. Sometimes playing straight eighth notes, sometimes eighth note triplets, use chromatic lines. Now again, with chromatic lines, if you play them really slowly, some notes may sound a little, might bend your ear a little bit. But, you know, at a high tempo like this, it's more for the effect. It's more for like the energy. Okay, so just have at it and have a lot of fun with that. I hope you enjoyed watching this video. Please leave any questions or comments in the comments section below. And check out my video series on modes and scales. The link is in the description. And in those videos I do a deep dive, a very comprehensive look at each mode and different types of scales and how to use them for all different applications, soloing, improvising, and plenty different patterns for those particular scales. I'm Dan Beagleman, and that's Hocus Pocus by Focus. Have a nice day.